Zecharia Sitchin's book, The 12th Planet, has been a source of wonder and intrigue for decades. Many are aware of his most famous quote-unquote discovery regarding our supposed alien ancestors, the Anunnaki, yet are simultaneously unfamiliar with the entirety of this intricate story. So, in this series, we will go through a journey that may very well tell the story of us, right from the creation of the solar system to the creation of Homo sapiens. In part 1 of this video series, we begin with the Enuma Elish, which consists of 7 Mesopotamian tablets that Sitchin believes tell the tale of how our solar system was created. It is important to note that the story is told through a battle of gods, who, through Sitchin's interpretation, represent planets. This would make sense, as describing the creation of our solar system through a battle epic starring gods, goddesses, and lords would make comprehending such a complex series of events much easier for a less technologically advanced society of humans. Obviously, such a theory is dependent on the existence of a knowledgeable informant who would have told this story to the Sumerians. In the beginning, there were only 3 bodies that existed in our solar system. The first was Apsu, our sun, the begetter, the one who exists from the beginning. The second was Mumu, the one who was born. And the third was Tiamat, the maiden of life. Nearest to the sun was said to be Mumu, its trusted servant. Mumu represents the planet Mercury. The other celestial body mentioned was Tiamat, who was farther away. The space between Tiamat, Apsu, and Mumu was not void. Rather, it was filled with the waters, or the primordial elements of the universe. These primordial elements began commingling and interacting to eventually form the 2 planets in the space between the sun and Tiamat. The Enuma Elish says, "Their waters were mingled together, gods were formed in their midst, God Lamu and God Lahamu were brought forth. By name they were called." Etymologically, Sitchin tells us that the common root word of the names of these 2 gods, or planets, is Lam, which means to make war. He connects this with the ancient tradition of Mars being the god of war and Venus being the god of love and war. He also connects a placement or order of these 2 planets, and thus concludes that Lamu and Lahamu represent Mars and Venus. Of course, this is a simplification of his evidence on my part. He does offer much more detail in his book. Before Mars and Venus were to reach full size, it is said that the god Ashnar and the god Kishar came forth, surpassing both Mars and Venus in size. Kashar means foremost of the firm lands. These descriptors indicate that this new pair of planets is none other than Saturn and Jupiter. As time passed, another god was born, Anu, the firstborn son of Ashnar, who we now know as Saturn. Anu is described as smaller than Saturn and Jupiter, but larger than the first planets. Following this development, Anu as his equal and in his image begot Nudimmud, meaning Anu and Nudimmud were twin planets. These size and locale descriptors fit the description of Uranus and Neptune. Anu is Uranus and Nudimmud is Neptune. Well, you might ask, what about Pluto? Sitchin tells us there was a second-born son of Saturn, Gaga. He describes how Saturn sent out Gaga as an emissary to various planets. In this, and similarities in the Enuma Elish to Mumu, or Mercury, we can conclude that Pluto is, in fact, Gaga. However, from the celestial maps of the Sumerians, Pluto is apparently, at this stage, a satellite of Saturn, and not an individual planet, as we currently know or really knew it to be. Now we have a solar system that looks familiar yet unfamiliar. The planets have been identified, but 2 very familiar bodies seem to be missing. In addition, Pluto does not seem to be in the right place. We shall continue into Act 2 to unravel the mystery. The divine brothers banded together. They disturbed Tiamat as they surged back and forth. They were troubling the belly of Tiamat by their antics in the dwellings of heaven. Apsu could not lessen their clamor. Tiamat was speechless at their ways. Their doings were loathsome, troublesome were their ways. The Enuma Elish is speaking of disturbances in orbits causing conflict between the planets. Conflict which seems to be especially directed at Tiamat. Their ways are truly abominable unto me. By day I find no relief, nor repose by night. I will destroy, I will wreck their ways. That quiet may be restored. Let us have rest. Though this may have seemed like a solid plan, Nudimid, or Neptune, overheard this plan and thus, calm as you like, somehow put the sun to sleep. He loosened Apsu's band, tore off his tiara, removed his halo and put it on himself. Having constrained Apsu, he slew him. Sitchin speculates that Neptune's orbit could have affected the magnetism of the sun. Another possibility was the possible release from Neptune of large quantities of radiation, causing this pouring of sleep onto the sun. Either way, the sun was subdued, and the title of Apsu was now associated with Neptune. And for a time, there was temporary peace in the solar system. But an intruder would see an end to this peace. Stay tuned for part 2, where we will wrap up the creation story of the solar system.